This is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 1, verse 9. It says, "The thing that hath been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun." I'm going to give all praises, honors, and glories unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone that terminus truth that rule well. Shalom to the elect that scattered through the four corners of the earth, as well as you women and children that believe in the true name and the true doctrine. All right, my name is Kodash Payah, and there's nothing new under the sun, as the scriptures say, as we witnessed, right, for generations, even reading about it, how history has been repeating itself, as you can see now. Here we are in 2026, with this whole federal enforcement, which is called ICE, that was set up to provoke Jake, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, which are biblical Israelites, to, not only retaliate, but it shows the captivity that we're in. Right? Just like how in ancient times you had Roman centurions come in with civil unrest. There was riots back then. And they gathered our people up, incarcerated them, killed them. Just like in hardcore slavery. How Esau, these Edomites, these elites, setting up troops, and kill us if we was, running away from the plantation that we was in, right? Segregation, period. You had the Willie Lynch, so this shows you that, hey, the Constitution was never written for us, and people are starting to see that. Right here you have Andrew Jackson, one of the presidents, the seventh president of the United States in 1829, 1837, is historically referred to as an Indian killer and shot night by Native American tribes due to his brutal policies and direct military action against them and their Israelites. And who's making up these new policies now? Passing these bills and signing off these executive orders to what? To take away the rights from the poor. As it tells you in the book of Isaiah, the 10th chapter and round about the first verse. The Indian Removal Act, in 1830, where Andrew Jackson signed the Indian Removal Act, which authorized the forced relocation of approximately 50,000 to 60,000 Native Americans from their ancestral lands in the southeast to designated Indian territory west of the Mississippi River. And what scriptures speak about how they go to other lands. Woe to them that build and basically in lands that's not theirs. Because who's the real immigrants? Who came over here, to the Americas? Who was already here? Right? And then they call the lands after their own names, after conquering our lands and people and stole our fucking resources, raped our women, slaughtered our children, and the men, taking them out. You know what I mean? Right? But people still want to vote. People still want, hey, this is all scriptural. Matter of fact, I got a quick precept real quick in the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 12. Straight to the point. It says, "Woe to him that buildeth a town with blood and established a city by iniquity." Right? And hey, they doing that now, just in a modern form. You had the Trail of Tears, which was brutal. Military campaigns, right? With the Creeks, which Andrew Jackson led brutal campaigns against the Creeks National, resulting in a massacre About over 800 Creek men, women, and children shot knife opposition to legacy, you know? And I bet, hey, you know, people are not voted in. They're selected by the higher ups, you know? Then you have over there in the Indian boarding school, which you should know about that. I'm gonna just read that the headlines of it. Indian boarding school were government and church operation institutions in the United States and Canada, primarily active from the late 1900s, which this was way after, right? Century throughout the 1960s, designed to forcibly assimilate Native American children into white Euro American culture. See? So they beat us till we started calling ourselves after their names, after the slave masters' names, made us change our apparel, gave us their apparel, gave us their language, gave us their culture. Our people don't know who they are, man. That's why the scripture said, my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. How the hell you think we got over here against our will and cargo slave ships and sub-Saharan slave trade? You know, Scattered through the four corners of the earth. These schools, which numbered over 400 across the U.S., aim to eradicate indigenous languages, cultures, and identities under the banner of civilizing, quote unquote. How is that civilized? But yet they want to call us savages, right? Native children often leaving a legacy of intergenerational trauma. See? Why you think our people want to be like the you know what I mean? The enemy. Forced assimilation, removal from families, cultural eradication, military style environment. This is why we bring out the traditions of the scriptures. That's our history book. You know? The law, statutes, commandments, the holy days that we kept in the traditions. You know? Disease and mortality. Go figure. Education. What a change, Intergenerational trauma, language and cultural laws, federal investigation and apology. So, hey man. Now let's get the Willie Lynch, which was a little bit before that. You know? The Willie Lynch's laws, right? I just wanted to bring these out for examples, man. Because these things are happening now again in these towns we're in. So it says Lynch law refers to vigilant justice. It wasn't real justice. Where a mob carries out punishment, right? Who is the mob right now carrying out punishment? In unjust laws. By these heathens walking around with vests, just running down in our people's homes, out of their cars, separating families, right? Where it says, where a mob carries out punishment, often death, like hanging. But now they're using the gun. Without legal authority or due process, typically for alleged crimes and historically fueled by racial hatred, especially against African Americans in the U.S. And what we're about to have, we're seeing divisions, Egyptians against the Egyptians, We're seeing how they're coming down with great wrath. The beginning of sorrows, against African, South thought. It's a broader concept of extrajudicial punishment without trial. Because that's a law that was passed recently. You can get incarcerated without trial, without a lawyer, without going to court, none of that. Oh, you look like such and such. Well, hey, we're going to put you in a cage for 10 hours and take, you know what I mean? Showing you, how bad it's going to get. It's defined as mild action to punishment, perceived crime without legal sanction, often involving violence, like hanging with modern laws, now classifying it as a federal hate crime. So, no due process, historical context, modern legal status, They even have a museum of it. You even go back to the time of Titus, the Seleucid Empire, in the book of of Maccabees about Antiochus Epiphanes, how you didn't slaughter our people. That's in the scriptures, man. In the Apocrypha, where they had to take out some books where you had the Council of Nicaea. Look that up. You know? So, and these events that I'm reading, it was not that long ago. You know? At all. But they want you to remember the Twin Towers. Like, come on, man. Let's get some scriptures. It says, matter of fact, let's go here. Ezekiel chapter 35, verse 5, it says, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword, in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end. You know? That's straight to the point. Now, what tribe, what people fits the description of what's going on now? Hey, read the curses that's going to fall upon us. Deuteronomy 28. Who fits that? Because every other nation, every other heathenistic nation and countries has had a hand in the downfall of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, which are the biblical Israelites. That's why the majority is going to get slaughtered soon, because they don't want to get right. You know? But, hey, why you think the scriptures tell you here, in the book of Ecclesiasticus, or known as Sirach, chapter 12, verse 10, never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. So, if you don't know who the enemy is, then you ain't going to understand. Hey, we read the patterns of who our enemies and what they have been doing us for generations. You know? Right? Don't trust them. You know? How people want to trust and vote and, they're not all bad. Well, anyway. Hey, the scriptures tell you in the book of Job, I believe 9:24, what the earth is given into the hands of the enemy. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 3, verse 6. It says, I would not be afraid of 10,000 of people that have set themselves against me round about. Are we not surrounded round about of all these troops, of all these forces coming down? You know, whether it's law enforcement, ICE, you know, the DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, the military, which they you know, eventually that's going to be martial law. We're going to see civil unrest. We're going to see these things be set up for what? Divide and conquer. Order out of chaos. Come on, man. You know? Our people need to wake up. You know? And, hey, now people are starting to realize certain things by the force of the sword. This book of Zechariah, chapter 11, verse 5, it says, whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty. And they that sell them say, blessed be the Lord, for I am rich, and their own shepherds pity them not, right? So, hey, who possesses slay them? We're possessed by of our enemies, man. We're servants of this land right now. We're in our captivity to this day. You know, even in the book of Baruch tells you that. You know? How we was given to the hands of our enemies because we moved the Lord to wrath. You know, and they didn't want to take heed. So now the Lord is using these heathens, these elites, to bring down the sword now. Because we at the time right now. We at the end. And it's going to bring in, you know, leading to what? More, the M-A-R-K of the beast. Revelation 13:16, the hour of temptation. Why do you think they setting up these concentration camps, these FEMA camps? You know? You see? Even Putin, president of Russia, was bringing out portraits, images of who the Lord's people really are. But yet our people don't know that. You know? Our people need to awake out of sleep. Because the scriptures say when the enemy shall come in like a flood, the Lord's going to lift up a standard against them. They're going to come in like a flood. But the Lord's going to lift up that standard for the elect to be able to, you know, have a way to escape these, you know, Jacob's trouble that's about to occur. You see? You know? Then you had the doomsday clock. They call us doomsday prophets. What the scriptures say in book of Revelation 12 and 12. That the devil's going to come down having great wrath. Why? Because he had but a short time. So the Lord is lifting up that standard against this man, right? But, you know, it's going to be a time never seen before. You know, for judgment. Also for salvation. You know, so seek ye the Lord while he may be found. Call upon him while he is near. The book of Isaiah chapter 55 verse 6. Because once we can't, you know, the words of the Lord is not spoken anymore, that means the Lord is shutting his mouth. And after that, our hands are clean. You know? So, anyway, I just wanted to bring this out real quick. Lord willing, this was edifying, straight to the point. I'm going to give all praises, honors, and glories unto Yahweh, Hashem, Yahushua, Hashem, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, the great millstone that taught me this truth that we well, as well as the bishops. Shalom to the elect scattered to four corners of the earth. Till next time, I'm going to say shalom.